You showed up here looking for motivation, but let me tell you something right now, motivation is cheap. Everybody wants to feel fired up for a few minutes, watch a video, clap their hands, and go right back to the same comfortable life. I'm not here for that. I'm here to look you straight in the eyes and ask you one simple question. How much pain are you really willing to take to become the person you say you want to be? Because the truth is, the world doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care that you're tired, that things were hard growing up, that life knocked you down a few times. Everybody in this room has a story. Everybody has scars. The difference between the people who stay average and the people who become unstoppable is simple. The unstoppable ones decide that their past, their pain, and their struggles will become fuel instead of chains. So today I'm going to challenge you not to feel motivated for an hour. I'm going to challenge you to change how you see pain, how you see discipline, and how you see the limits you placed on yourself. And if you're ready to hear the truth, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because I want to know how many warriors are out there ready to take their lives to the next level. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain. They build their schedules around comfort. They wake up and immediately start negotiating with themselves. Maybe I'll work out tomorrow. Maybe I'll start the diet next week. Maybe when things get easier, I'll finally chase that dream. But let me tell you something right now. My things are never going to get easier. Life isn't designed that way. Life is designed to test you. Every single day, it puts something heavy on your shoulders just to see if you're going to crumble or if you're going to grow stronger. When I talk about embracing pain, I'm not talking about suffering for no reason. I'm talking about understanding that every single time you push through something uncomfortable, you're building a version of yourself that most people will never meet. Pain is the gym for the mind. The same way your muscles grow when you stress them. Your character grows when you refuse to quit. But most people quit the second things get hard. They quit at the first sign of resistance. And that's why their lives never change. Think about it. Every dream worth having sits on the other side of discomfort. Want to get stronger? You have to push through those last painful reps when your body is screaming to stop. Want to build a business? You have to work when everyone else is sleeping, when nobody believes in you, when the results aren't showing up yet. Want to become mentally tough? You have to walk straight into the storms that other people spend their lives running away from. Pain is the greatest teacher you'll ever have if you stop looking at it like an enemy. The moment something gets difficult, most people interpret that as a signal to quit. But the truth is, difficulty is the signal that you're finally in the right place. Growth doesn't live in comfort zones. Growth lives in the dark mornings when you don't feel like waking up, but you do it anyway. Growth lives in the moments when your mind is begging you to stop, but you keep moving forward. Your brain is wired to protect you. It wants safety. It wants ease. It wants the shortest path to comfort. But greatness doesn't exist on that path. Greatness exists when you override that voice, when you wake up before the sun rises and do the work anyway, when you stay disciplined even when nobody is watching, when you keep going long after motivation has disappeared. And here's something powerful most people never realize. Pain is temporary, but quitting becomes permanent. Every time you quit, you send a message to your mind that you are the kind of person who stops when things get hard. That message starts shaping your identity. Eventually, you don't even try anymore because deep down you believe you're someone who gives up. But the opposite is also true. Every time you push through pain, every time you refuse to quit, you send a different message. You tell your mind, I am the kind of person who finishes what I start. And once that identity starts forming, everything in your life begins to change. Because discipline becomes easier when it's part of who you are. Hard work becomes natural. Struggle becomes something you expect, not something you fear. People always ask me how to become mentally tough. They're looking for some secret formula, some magical technique that makes life easier. But mental toughness isn't built in comfort. It's built when you're exhausted and you choose to keep going. It's built when you fail, and instead of making excuses, you look in the mirror and take responsibility. There will be days when everything feels heavy, days when your progress seems invisible, days when your mind tells you none of it is worth it. Those are the days that matter the most, because anyone can work hard when they feel good. Champions are built on the days when they feel terrible and still refuse to quit. You have to start training your mind the same way an athlete trains their body. Put yourself in difficult situations. Take the long road when the short road is easier. Do the things you know are good for you, even when you don't feel like doing them. Over time, those small victories start stacking up. They create a mindset that doesn't break under pressure. And eventually something incredible happens. The things that once felt impossible start feeling normal. The challenges that used to scare you start looking small. The pain that once stopped you becomes the very thing that drives you forward. That's the moment you begin separating yourself from the crowd. Because while everyone else is waiting for the perfect moment, you're already moving. While everyone else is complaining about how hard life is, you're using that hardship as training. And the truth is, life will keep testing you no matter how strong you become. There will always be another mountain, another challenge, another moment where quitting feels tempting. But once you learn to embrace pain instead of fearing it, those mountains stop looking like obstacles. They start looking like opportunities to become someone stronger than you were yesterday. Most people think the mind is something they can't control. They believe their thoughts are permanent, like the weather, something that just happens to them. One day they feel strong, the next day they feel weak, and they think that's just how life works. But the truth is, your mind is more like skin on your hands. When you first start working hard, lifting, grinding, pushing yourself through uncomfortable things, your hands blister. They hurt. They tear open. But if you keep showing up, something incredible happens. Those soft hands become calloused. They become tougher. The pain that once stopped you becomes something you barely notice. The same exact thing happens with the mind. Callousing the mind means exposing it to hardship. So often that struggle stops surprising you. Most people live the opposite way. They design their entire lives around avoiding difficulty. They stay inside comfort. They keep routines that require very little from them, and slowly their minds become fragile. The smallest inconvenience ruins their day. A little criticism breaks their confidence. A single failure convinces them to stop trying. It's not because they're weak people. It's because their minds have never been trained to handle pressure. Your mind, just like your body, adapts to the demands you place on it. If your life is built around comfort, your mind adapts to comfort. If your life is built around challenge, your mind adapts to challenge. This is why some people seem calm in the middle of chaos while others fall apart under small stress. It's not magic. It's conditioning. It's years of exposing the mind to situations that require resilience. Think about the first time you tried something truly difficult. Maybe it was a brutal workout, a long night of studying, a hard job, or chasing a goal that nobody around you believed in. At the beginning, everything inside you wanted to quit. Your mind screamed at you. It tried to convince you that stopping was the smart decision. That voice felt powerful because your mind had never experienced that level of discomfort before. But if you stayed in that moment, if you pushed through it, something began to change. You realized the voice telling you to quit wasn't actually a command. It was just a suggestion. That realization is powerful because most people live their entire lives obeying every thought that enters their head. The moment their mind says, "This is too hard," they stop. The moment their mind says, "You're not good enough," they believe it. The moment their mind says, "Rest today," they listen. They never question the voice. But the truth is, your mind is constantly trying to keep you safe. And safe usually means comfortable, predictable, easy. Callousing the mind means teaching that voice that it doesn't always get the final say. It means proving to yourself over and over again that you can keep moving even when your thoughts tell you to stop. The first few times you do this, it feels brutal. It feels unnatural. Your brain resists because it isn't used to being challenged in that way. But every time you refuse to surrender to that inner negotiation, a layer of mental toughness begins to form. Over time, those layers start stacking. What once felt unbearable starts feeling manageable. The things that used to intimidate you begin to look ordinary. You start noticing that stressful situations don't shake you the same way they used to. That's the callus forming. It's the result of consistent exposure to difficulty. And this doesn't require dramatic moments. It's built through small daily choices. Waking up when the alarm goes off instead of hitting snooze. Finishing the last part of the workout when your body is begging you to stop. Studying longer when your mind wants distraction. Facing responsibilities instead of avoiding them. Each of these moments is like friction against the mind. At first it irritates you. It feels uncomfortable. But over time that friction builds strength. One of the most powerful parts of callousing the mind is that it changes how you interpret hardship. Instead of seeing difficulty as a signal to retreat, you begin to see it as proof that you're doing something meaningful. Your relationship with struggle transforms. It stops being something you fear and starts becoming something you expect. The calmness that comes from this mindset is incredible. When you know that your mind has survived difficult moments before, new challenges stop feeling overwhelming. You don't panic the same way other people do. You breathe. You assess the situation. You keep moving. That calm isn't natural talent. It's earned through repetition, through facing uncomfortable moments instead of avoiding them. Another thing happens when the mind becomes calloused. Your confidence stops depending on motivation. A lot of people think confidence comes from feeling inspired, from watching a video, hearing a speech, or getting encouragement from others. But real confidence comes from evidence. It comes from remembering all the times you did something hard and didn't quit. Every tough moment you survive becomes proof stored in your memory. When a new challenge appears, your mind looks back at those moments and realizes you've handled difficulty before. That memory gives you quiet strength. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply reminds you that you are capable of more than your doubts suggest. The process of callousing the mind also reveals something important about human potential. Most people operate far below their true capacity, not because they lack ability, but because they stop when discomfort begins. They never stay in the struggle long enough to discover how strong they actually are. When you start training your mind to push past that early resistance, you realize the limits you believed it were mostly illusions. Your body still gets tired. Your circumstances still get difficult, but your willingness to keep going expands. That willingness becomes a powerful advantage in every part of life. The world is full of obstacles, setbacks, unexpected storms. No one escapes them. The difference between people who break and people who endure often comes down to how their minds have been conditioned. A calloused mind doesn't panic at the first sign of struggle. It understands that difficulty is part of the path. And when you reach that point, when your mind has been exposed to enough resistance, enough discipline, enough uncomfortable growth, something quiet begins to settle inside you. A steady strength, a patience with the process, a calm understanding that no matter how heavy the challenge feels in the moment, you've trained your mind to carry weight that once seemed impossible. Most people don't realize how often they negotiate with themselves. It happens quietly, almost invisibly throughout the day. The alarm rings in the morning, and the mind immediately starts bargaining. Just 5 more minutes. You went to bed late. You can start tomorrow. It sounds harmless. It sounds reasonable. But those small negotiations slowly build a habit of surrender. Every time you make a promise to yourself and then break it through negotiation, you weaken the trust between who you are and who you say you want to be. The mind is incredibly skilled at creating comfortable arguments. It will bring logic, emotion, and even false kindness into the conversation just to convince you to take the easier path. It will say you deserve a break, that today has been stressful enough, that skipping one effort will not matter. In isolation, One skipped effort might not look important, but the pattern that forms from repeated negotiations quietly shapes your identity. When you constantly negotiate with yourself, you begin to train your brain that your commitments are optional, your goals become flexible, your discipline becomes temporary, and your standards slowly drop without you even noticing. The mind starts learning that pressure can always be escaped if the excuse sounds convincing enough. That habit spreads into every part of life. Work becomes inconsistent. Health becomes unpredictable. Focus becomes scattered. But something powerful happens when you begin refusing those negotiations. When the alarm rings and you simply stand up without starting a conversation with your thoughts, you send a different signal to your mind. You establish a rule that certain actions are not open for debate. The decision was already made yesterday, and today you simply execute it. This quiet removal of negotiation changes the relationship you have with yourself. Instead of constantly asking how you feel about doing something, you begin acting according to the standard you set. Feelings still exist. Fatigue still appears. Doubt still whispers. But they no longer sit at the decision-making table. The calm strength of discipline grows from that principle. Many people believe discipline requires constant motivation or excitement, but the opposite is often true. Discipline becomes easier when you remove emotional voting from your responsibilities. If every task must pass through the filter of how you feel in that moment, most of your goals will never survive. Think about how often feelings shift throughout a single day. 1 hour you feel focused, the next hour you feel distracted. One moment you feel confident, the next moment you feel uncertain. If action always waits for the perfect emotional state, progress becomes unstable. But when the rule is simple, but the task gets done because it is scheduled, the mind slowly stops wasting energy arguing. At first, removing negotiation can feel uncomfortable. The brain has been used to debating every effort. It expects the opportunity to bargain. When that opportunity disappears, resistance shows up in different forms. You might feel restless, irritated, or mentally tired. These sensations are not signals to stop. They are signs that the old habit of negotiation is losing its power. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. The mind becomes quieter. When it realizes that its excuses are no longer being entertained, it gradually stops offering them as frequently. The internal noise fades. What used to be a long conversation in your head becomes a simple movement of action. You wake up and move. You start the task and continue. The emotional storm that once surrounded effort becomes smaller. The mind learns that the routine will happen regardless of how dramatic the internal dialogue might feel. This shift builds a deep sense of self-respect. Every time you follow through on a commitment without negotiating, you reinforce the belief that your word matters. The promises you make to yourself gain weight. They stop being hopeful ideas and start becoming reliable decisions. That reliability changes the way you see your own potential. Confidence grows quietly when you realize that you can depend on yourself, not because you always feel strong, but because you act even when you feel weak. The gap between intention and action begins to close. Another powerful effect appears in how you approach difficult moments. When something challenging shows up, the mind will still attempt to negotiate. It might say the timing isn't right, that conditions should be better, that waiting would be smarter. But if you've trained yourself to recognize negotiation for what it is, those thoughts lose much of their influence. You observe them without automatically obeying them. You notice the urge to delay, to soften the effort, to choose comfort. And instead of arguing with the thought, you simply continue moving in the direction you already committed to. This approach creates a calm rhythm in your life. Instead of constantly fighting with your thoughts, you let your standards lead the way. The mind can complain if it wants to, but the schedule continues. The goal remains steady. The effort keeps unfolding. People often imagine discipline as loud, aggressive, and exhausting. But when negotiation disappears, discipline can feel surprisingly peaceful. There is less internal chaos, less wasted energy spent debating. The path becomes straightforward. You know what needs to be done, and you do it. Some days the work feels light. Other days it feels heavy, but the process continues either way. The absence of negotiation protects your momentum from the unpredictable nature of emotions. In the long run, this practice strengthens your sense of control over your life. Many frustrations people experience come from repeatedly abandoning the goals they care about most. They feel disappointed in themselves, unsure of why their motivation fades so quickly. When negotiation becomes a habit, even strong ambitions can dissolve under daily excuses. But when negotiation disappears, progress becomes consistent. Small actions stack day after day without interruption. And as those actions accumulate, something quiet begins to grow beneath the surface, a deeper trust in your own ability to carry out what you decide. A steadiness that does not depend on perfect circumstances, a mindset where commitment is no longer a temporary feeling, but a quiet agreement you honor through action. Regardless of the arguments the mind tries to offer along the way. So remember this, the strongest version of you is not built in moments of comfort. It's built in the quiet decisions you make every single day when nobody is watching, when you choose discipline over excuses, action over negotiation, and growth over comfort. If something in this message spoke to you, take a second right now and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because I want to see how many people around the world are ready to push past their limits, build that unbreakable mindset, and keep moving forward no matter how hard the road gets. Stay hard.